Hello, it's Philip Taylor from Richmond Green Chambers speaking. I'm looking at a book from Waterside Press. The review on Flickr is there. I've written a review with my wife and we've given it the title Youth Law Explained and Reviewed. Now, my wife Elizabeth and I have had quite a lot of experience of looking at this particular area of law, and this is the book itself. As I say, Youth Justice and the Youth Court. An introduction. It's part of the introduction series, and both Mike Watkins and Diane have written a very useful work here. It's very much in keeping with the structure of Waterston's, and they've got some nice tables at the front which are very helpful. You've got the main chapters in the work, and then at the back you've got lots of useful information, again highlighting particular points. Then at the back you've got an important appendices and a useful index. Now let me tell you a little bit about the book. It's very much a hands-on book written by Mike Watkins and Diane Johnson. It's got a foreword from Chris Stanley, and the trio have got considerable experience within this area of the criminal justice process. Members of the bench, of course, remain the unsung heroes of civic life, especially in this particular type of jurisdiction, which in my view, of course, is a very, very difficult area at the best of times. Whether you read the book cover to cover, therefore, or selectively as reference for specific areas which you're handling, I think you'll still find that the understanding of the youth justice system in England and Wales is immeasurably enhanced by this particular publication. It examines in depth the role of the youth court, the police, the Crown prosecutors, the YOTs and the YOPs and so forth. It's extremely useful in looking at the spectrum of attempts by society to contain the difficulties of youth crime. Let me give you an example of some facts you may not know. For instance, the youth court's actually 100 years old. It was established by the Children Act in 1908 and implemented in April 1909, so it's just celebrating its 100th anniversary. The Act represented reform and reflected at that time an evolving change in the public attitude towards youth offending, but it was a long time in coming, from scandals of, say, 1833, when a 9-year-old, Nicholas White, was sentenced to death for stealing items worth twopence. The sentence, of course, in that case was fortunately commuted to a whipping and transportation, but it just shows the unpalatable history of the criminal courts. The youth justice system today continues inevitably to reflect public attitudes and the political will, of course, of the current agenda. We've got examples of a visit through the Children and Young Persons Act 1933, which most people will know. Then you've got, as Stanley says, that piece of legislation remaining with us today, but it's sitting alongside new and overarching principles of things like sentencing guidelines, counsel policy, which is very much to the fore in this particular publication, although there is some tinkering as I give this talk about how the current guidelines are going to operate. Obviously, the youth justice system as a whole does fall far short of the noble aims that it sets itself, and obviously there are always going to be calls for change. At the moment, we certainly were very impressed with Stanley's suggestion that since much of youth crime is generated by family dysfunction, it's therefore the family and youth jurisdictions which should be combined, and I certainly think there should be a fresh approach to it. We may well get that with the general election this year. As I've said, it's got graphs and tables which are extremely useful, and I think it does guide you through the complexities of the youth justice system. It's obviously a must for youth workers, for police and magistrates, and it should also be required reading for anyone dealing directly or indirectly with youth justice, because youth law, as I'm calling it, is explained and reviewed in 2010 in this book, and I think it's done brilliantly. So thank you to the authors, and thank you to Waterside Press. Bye-bye.